Hello, my name is Michael Hacker, and I'm a Cloud Solution Architect for Microsoft State and Local Government. Today, I thought I'd demonstrate really quick how to create a StorSimple virtual machine that you can use on premises and connect to cloud storage. Now, this is a really great way to get started as a small or medium-sized business with hybrid storage, where maybe you have storage needs that are expanding and you want to take advantage of the lower cost opportunities of cloud-based storage. StorSimple also has some additional capabilities, which is really nice, related to the ability to do backup and the thin provisioning of the service in case you have some sort of a DR scenario. So this new capability is currently in preview. So today is December 17th, 2015. So if you're watching this video in the future, it might actually come out of preview. Some of these things may change. But today, this service is in preview, which means that there isn't an SLA on this. So you're kind of using it at your own risk. But in the future, when it comes out as generally available, it'll have a full SLA and be fully supported. Now to get started, you just come out to your Azure portal, log in, and then go to the StorSimple section down here on the bottom. And then choose Create New StorSimple Manager. And then what we're going to do is choose a virtual device series. Now there's going to be two options, physical or virtual. We're going to choose virtual. The next is to choose our location. I'm going to choose a location in the United States. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a name. So I'm going to call this MHDemoSS for StorSimple. Hit Create StorSimple Manager. And it will take just a couple moments for it to go through the process of creating the StorSimple Management Console inside of our Azure portal here. So I'll go ahead and click down on that. We can see here that it's creating. Now, after a couple minutes, we will have the portal. Now, the portal is going to show us how to then download the image that we're going to run locally in our virtual server hosts. So whether we're using Hyper-V or whether we're using VMware, it doesn't matter because we have images for both. Once we download those images, then we can go ahead and provision that virtual machine on premises and then walk through the steps to actually connect that up to the StorSimple management environment. We'll also create a storage account where we'll be able to store all of our StorSimple data, and we'll begin to utilize the service. Now we can see here that we have now our management console ready, so I'll go ahead and click on it. And it gives us the options necessary to go through and configure this device. So the first thing we need to do is download the appropriate image. So whether we're going to download for Hyper-V or VMware. Now earlier I already downloaded the image. So the next thing that we need to do is expand this, and it's going to tell us how to set up our hypervisor and the virtual machine that we're going to be running. Now, a couple important things. If you're going to run this StorSimple virtual appliance, you need at least 4 cores, 8 gigs of RAM, 500 gigs of virtual data disk, and 1 network interface. Okay, and this has to have, of course, internet access in order to do this. So we need to configure this. So what we're going to do is switch back over here to my Hyper-V Manager, and I've already set up the disk. I've already got it downloaded and unpacked onto a hard drive. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new virtual machine. Go ahead and hit Next here, and I'm going to call it my StorSimple VM. And I'm going to choose a different location here to store this. So I'm going to go out to my drive here, and I've got VHD location. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, I don't want my VHD location. I want my virtual machine location. Go ahead and choose that. Hit Next. I'm going to choose Generation 1. So make sure you choose Generation 1 here if you're using Hyper-V. How much memory? Okay, so if we go back here, it's saying 8 gigs of RAM. So we will come out here and give pretty close to 8 gigs of RAM. And we'll go ahead and remove that. Hit Next. We need to connect it to our virtual switch. So I've got one that connects to the internet. Hit Next. And now I need to attach to an existing virtual hard drive. So I'm going to choose this and go out and browse out to where my virtual hard drives are, which once again is out here under my Hyper-V folder, VHDs. And this is the virtual hard drive file that I downloaded. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. Hit Next, and then hit Finish. So now it goes ahead and sets up this virtual machine. But before we start it, we need to make some changes to the settings. So we're going to go into settings. And the first thing is we need to bump up the virtual processor up to 4. The other thing that we need to do is we need to add a local data disk. So we're going to go to a SCSI controller here, do a new hard drive, and hit add. We're going to create a new virtual hard drive. Go ahead and hit next. We're going to do the VHDX format. We want dynamically expanding, and we're going to give it a name. So this is going to be my StorSimple data disk. And I'm going to choose where I want to put this. Once again, I've got another location that I want to put it in. So I'll put it in my VHD folders. Hit next. And how big do we want this disk? Now we need a minimum of 500 gigs. So I'm going to just do a 500 gig minimum drive. Hit next. Hit finish. And now I can go ahead and just hit OK here. So now we have our StorSimple virtual appliance that's ready to roll. So the next step is to start it up. So we're going to right click, hit start, and then I'm going to double click on it to actually launch the window here. And it's going to show it boot up. Now it's going to take a couple minutes for it to get booted up here. So while we're waiting, I'm just going to go ahead and pause the video and come back once this is fully booted. All right, so it looks like our StorSimple virtual appliance is fully booted. Now, it took about 5 to 10 minutes to get here. So, give it a few minutes. You got to be a little patient as it goes through and does its initial configuration and installation and setup there. So once you get to this screen here, the next thing that we want to do is grab the IP address for this device. So I'm going to do this by going to my StorSimple management and go to networking. And I can see here that I've got an IP address of 192.168.1.29. So I'm going to enter that in up here. 192.168.1.29. And we will get a screen that basically shows that a certificate is not valid for this device. That's not a problem. We just go ahead and continue to the web page. Now, it's going to ask us to log in here. So this is the user account, StorSimple admin. So that's the default user account. The password is very simple. It's just password1 with a capital P. So we'll go ahead and enter that in. And now it's going to ask us to change that password. So we'll enter in the original one again, password1 with a capital P. And then change it to a new password. And we'll save that. And we'll be redirected here in just a moment to the device. Now, here we go. As you can see, the device does not meet the minimum requirements. 8 gigs, 7 gigs available. All right, so as you can see, if we do not meet the minimum requirements for the device, it's not going to allow us to continue. So what I need to do is go back and make changes to that device so that it has the full 8 gigs that we need. So that would really be 8,192. So let me come back in here and shut down this device. And once it is fully shut down, I will go ahead and change the memory configuration, and then the next time it comes up, we should be able to log in and actually utilize the device without any issues. So as you can see, you must meet those minimum requirements or it will not allow you to continue. So there we go, 8,192 meg. That should equal 8 gig. So we'll go ahead and apply. Okay, let's go ahead and start this up again. And we'll double click here so we can see it boot up. This time the boot up process should be quite a bit quicker because it doesn't have to go through that initialization process. So we'll go ahead and allow this to finish its booting here. It should just take a moment. All right, as we can see, we've booted up here. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the root URL. All right, so we're going to go ahead and sign into the device again. So we'll go ahead and enter in our new password. And this time we're taken to our preview dashboard. So very simple. Walk through a couple different configurations here. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll just run down these real quick. So first, network settings. We'll click on this. We're just going to use a default IP address, DHCP, that's been assigned to it. Of course, we could set this off and specify the IP address that we'd like to use. Go ahead and go to device settings here. This is where we decide what type of device that we want this to be. Do we want it to be just a file server, or do we want this to be an iSCSI server where we can use this to provision storage for other host servers? Now, if we're a file server, one of the things that has to happen is it needs to be a domain joined device. If we go with an iSCSI server, we do not need to make it domain joined. So the first thing that I'm going to do is switch this over to iSCSI for this demo. And I'm going to give it a device name of MH StorSimple. Go ahead and apply that. Now, a couple things to note. Your selection here will actually impact some of the capabilities of the device. As an iSCSI server, when you do backups, it backups the whole volume to Azure Storage. And when you need to restore, you actually restore into a new volume. Now, with thin provisioning, it's not actually copying all the data back down on premises. It just creates a new volume that you can go and access files from a specific point in time. If you go with the file server configuration, you can actually do item level restore without having to go back and do those volume restores. Okay, so just know about that. Next, web proxy settings. I don't have a web proxy that I have to worry about, so I'm going to skip past that. Time settings. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my time zone, Eastern time zone. Go ahead and apply that. And then come down here to cloud settings. So what I need here is a registration key to register this device to the StorSimple manager that's in Azure. So now I'm going to go back to Azure and scroll down here, and you see Get Service Registration Key. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. It's going to fetch the service registration key. It's going to take just a moment as it generates it and then presents it to me here. And once I present this, once it's presented to me, I'm just going to copy that, put it into that text box, click the apply, and what it will do is actually connect that device to Azure. So I'm going to go ahead, copy that, come back over here. We'll paste it here in the top. I'm going to hit register. Now it's applying the settings, and this device is being registered with Microsoft Azure. Okay, so we'll give this just a moment. And once the settings have been applied, we'll switch back to our management console. So there we go. It's going to restart our device. So we'll wait a moment for that to complete. And actually, while that's happening, we can take a look over here at our StorSimple portal. Now, if I click on devices, we can now see that our StorSimple virtual device has been registered in our management portal. Okay, so let's go back over here and see it's still showing as our device being restarted. So we'll wait just a couple more moments here for this to complete, and then we'll come back and finish the configuration. Alrighty, so the device has been reset, and it brought us back here to our sign-in page for our StorSimple device. But at the moment, we don't need to log back in here. We're going to go into the StorSimple Manager in our Azure portal. We're going to go ahead and click on it, and we'll see that we have to complete the device setup. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And there's going to be some basic settings here we have to configure for our device. So we'll give it just a moment. The first thing is to select a storage account for where we are going to store all of our data in Azure. Now I've got a few different accounts here. I'm going to choose one that I've already created down here at the bottom. And then the next thing is do we want to enable encryption for the data that's stored inside of Azure? Now, if I wanted to, I would come in here and what we would do is we'd create a key. We'd put it in here and then we'd confirm the key. Now, of course, we need to make sure that since this is a client-side key, that we take that, we store it someplace, we protect it, because if we ever need to connect a replacement device to this volume that's out in Azure, we need that encryption key to be able to decrypt our data. In my case, since this is just a demo, I'm going to go ahead and remove that. So I'm going to go ahead and just enable or disable the cloud storage encryption. Go ahead and hit next. It's kind of warning me that I'm going to have unencrypted data in the cloud. That's no problem here. I'll go ahead and allow it to update the configuration for the device. So that's happening here and will be completed in just a moment. So I'll go ahead and dismiss the completed ones and we'll just kind of wait a moment for this update to complete. All right, so we can see that we have successfully configured the device. And we'll just go ahead and hit OK. The next thing is we need to add our volume. So this is going to be our volume or our drive that we're going to create with our StorSimple device that we're going to expose through iSCSI. So we're going to go ahead and hit Add Volume. And we're going to go ahead and give the volume a name. I'm going to just say SS Volume 1 for StorSimple Volume 1. And then we have a usage type. Are we going to do tiered volume or locally pinned volume? Now the difference here is that a tiered volume storage will automatically extend your storage to Azure Storage. So it tiers it. So the older data that's not being used will be tiered off into the Azure Cloud Service, and only the most important, most used data will stay locally on your virtual machine here. If we go to locally pinned volume, that means all the data is going to stay local to the device here on premises. Now, both of these have the ability to utilize the complete backup capability of the StorSimple virtual appliance. So you don't have to worry about losing backup capabilities by choosing one or the other. Now, the reason why you might choose locally pinned volume is if you want to utilize the backup capabilities of the StorSimple virtual appliance, but you need better performance and you need to make sure that the data that is in that volume always remains on premises and is never stored in Azure or tiered to Azure. It would be stored, of course, for backup purposes, but for not, it wouldn't be stored there for regular usage. In the case of tiered volume, the data could be stored on premises, it could be stored in the cloud, and when a person or a application requests a specific file, if it's on premises, it'll pull it immediately. If it's in the cloud, it's going to pull it down from the cloud and then make it available. So there would be a little bit of latency there in pulling down the data. Now, tiered volume is what I usually recommend our customers to go with unless they have a performance need of having local tiered or local pinned data. This is because you get the full benefit of the actual device and being able to utilize that hybrid storage where you're extending your storage to the cloud. Now here we get to see that we have an available total capacity of 3.9 terabytes, an available local capacity of about 400 gig. Okay, so remember that I created that local drive. About 100 gigs of that drive got pulled aside. That gives us about 399 gig left. We can only, we must have 10% cache capability on premises. So that gives me the ability to expand all the way up to 3.9 terabytes. So if I wanted to create a volume here, I might create a 3 terabyte volume. So although I only have roughly 500 gigs on premises, I can have an effective capacity of this volume of 3 terabyte. Because as we start getting closer to that 500 gig size limit on premises, we're going to start tiering our data out to Azure. So we'll go ahead and choose to do that. Now the next thing is we need to set up our iSCSI initiator name. So what is going to be the host that's going to connect to this? So I'm going to use my local machine. So the first thing that I'm going to do is bring up my iSCSI initiator app. and go to configuration and get the initiator name for this specific machine. So that's all we have to do. Just bring up the iSCSI initiator app, go to configure, copy the name. Let's drop it in here, hit paste. We need to give it some standard name, so I'm going to just call it MH StorSimple. We'll go ahead and accept that. And so now you can see here that we're adding our volume, SS Volume 1, to this StorSimple appliance. So it's going to take just a moment for that to complete. And then once that's complete, we can move on to the process of actually utilizing this volume on our host device. So we'll give this just a couple more minutes to complete. All right, and there we are. So we have successfully added our volume. I'll go ahead and hit OK. If I come up here to volumes, we will now see that volume here. So there we go. We can see the volume has been created and added. We're using 0 out of 3 terabytes. It's tiered storage. We have backups auto-enabled. So lots of very good stuff going on here. Lots of great information shown here on this management portal. So let's go ahead and add our iSCSI device to our local machine here so we have a new drive. So once again, I'm going to need the IP address of our StorSimple device. Remember, it's 192.168.1.29 in this configuration. So I'm going to come here, switch over to Discovery, click on Discover Portal, and I'm going to enter in that IP address. So 192.168.1.29. Hit OK. And so now we see that listed here, our IP address, our IP address. We'll leave the port default 3260. Now we're going to switch over to targets, and you'll see that we show that we have an inactive target. So the target's listed there. I'm going to go ahead and click on Connect to connect to it. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And hit OK again. And now we have connected to our target. So let's go ahead and run our disk management software here on our local machine. We'll open up our disk manager, and it's going to recognize that we have a new disk associated with this machine. So I'll go ahead and allow it to initialize the disk. I'll expand this open a little bit here so we can see what we've got. And we can see disk 5 here is connected, 3 terabytes unallocated. We'll go ahead and create a new simple volume. Hit next. We'll use the full amount. Hit next. We can assign a drive letter, G. Hit next. We'll go ahead and format it. And I'll give it a volume name. Hit next. Finish. And in just a moment, we are now going to have a G drive here on this machine that we can go ahead and open. So we'll go ahead and come here, this PC, and there's our StorSimple iSCSI drive. So now we have a 3 terabyte drive that's available to us where only 500 gigs of storage is actually local, and the rest of it is cloud-based storage. Now, from this perspective here, you would not know whether the file is on premises or in the cloud. It's all managed by StorSimple automatically. Now that we've got this set up, the next important thing is to make sure that we have appropriate backups occurring on our data. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back out here to my management, and I can click on to configuration, and here we can scroll down and see we've got our backup schedule time. So when do we want our device to back up our data? So we've got this set at 10:30 in the evening. So every night at 10:30 p.m., the StorSimple device will automatically back up data into Microsoft Azure for backups. Now, the nice thing about the way that StorSimple works is that it's only going to send the blocks of data that have really changed. We're not going to send everything up every time. So this really makes that backup very efficient. Now, of course, the first time it does it, it's going to take a little bit of time, and because it has to really move everything back up there. Everything that you have local has to be moved up there. Now, if we're using a full, let's say, 2 terabytes of storage, remember, we're only really storing roughly between 4 and 500 gigs of data on premises. The rest of that is going to be in the cloud already. So that also makes the backup much quicker. So we can come in here, make our quick change, and then we would just hit save at the bottom. Now we can click on monitor, and this will give us the ability to visualize our capacity. So how much data are we utilizing? So here we're seeing our capacity utilization for cloud. We're not using any right now. Well, that's because we haven't put any data on our drive and we haven't done any backups. I can switch this to my device. How much data is on my local device? So once again, we haven't put any data on our local device. But as we started adding data to our local device, we would also see that here. Now, since we have this drive here in this drive letter, I could go ahead and share this out and make this a network file share for other folks to use inside of my network. So now, as you've seen, I've really quickly set up a virtual StorSimple appliance by downloading the virtual machine to my local machine, created it as a virtual machine in Hyper-V. I added a 500 gig data drive to it, so that way I'd have local storage. We registered it with the Azure portal. We went ahead and finished the configuration. We created a volume, and then we went ahead and we mounted that volume to a host server, so that way we can then begin storing our files. So hopefully this overview gives you a good idea of how to get started with the new Azure StorSimple virtual machine and virtual device. A couple of things that you do want to know. Number one, this virtual device today supports up to 20 terabytes of data. Okay, so that's a combination of on-prem and cloud-based data, so we can manage up to 20 terabytes of data. The other thing to be aware of is that once again, when you're setting this up, think whether you're going to do it as a file share or as an iSCSI device when you're setting this up. Also remember that you have different types of storage. You can do tiered volumes and you can also do local volumes. So we can do multiple volumes here. You can also see that at any point in time, I can initiate a backup down here at the bottom on this StorSimple device by choosing the volume and saying, or just going down here and actually choosing backup all, and then it will back up all my volumes to Azure backup storage inside of the cloud. Now, another thing that you want to be aware of, if you have a physical StorSimple device, like an 8000 model, you cannot use this as a DR point or a disaster recovery machine for the 8000 series. You have to use another 8000 series device or the StorSimple virtual appliance that's built into Azure. Okay, you can't use an on-prem virtual appliance as a DR point for a 8000 series device. So I hope this information helps you get started utilizing Azure StorSimple on-premises virtual devices. And keep an eye out for future videos demonstrating new capabilities in the Microsoft Azure environment. Thank you for watching.